And then before I start, thank you, Basil, for setting us off. And because it is actually a few minutes past 2, so we'll get started. And greetings to my own friend Grace Ambariako. Oh, he may not be, he may be muted.
Mzuri sana. Mzuri sana. Habari mzuri.
Salama sana. Welcome.
Salama ndio.
Yes, welcome. Great. So thank you very much. And I welcome everyone. My name is John Njoka. Sorry, I'm not putting my video on. I have some issues with my camera. It's bringing some funny images. I think if you see, you will see it's not very, very clear. So I prefer no, it's clear, I think.
It is, Mwalimu. Please proceed. It is.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. I don't know why I was seeing like it was not very, very clear, so that those who know me can see I'm not an imposter. It's still the same person. So welcome, Angeline, for this, and also Grace, the discussant, for this seminar, and everybody. So we'll go straight to the presentation of the subject that we are in here. And so the seminar is on gender roles and food security, a differential impact analysis of Kaabong West Sub-County, Kaabong district in Uganda. So I will not even read the abstract or say anything. I just give Angeline, Kasake Angeline, the opportunity to use the time provided to make a presentation. Then I'll introduce, no, probably I need to say a bit about her before I call upon her. And then later when I call upon Grace, I'll also introduce him. So for those who may not be familiar with her, but also formally, Kaseke is a PhD candidate in the Institute for Development Studies, which is hosting us here. The PhD is on development studies. So as we look at this work, let's have that in mind. And she holds a master's degree in development studies from the Matthias University in Uganda, Nkosi, and a bachelor's degree in development studies from Chambogo. I don't know whether you people pronounce it as Kiambogo or Chambogo University. And she's also a lecturer there at the university where she studied the first degree. She has a profound interest in development studies, particularly on matters gender, climate change, food security, and personal human development. And being very dedicated to this work, she is very optimistic, and she seeks to be creative and also grow personally among her students and the community. And in her career, development studies has been central to her service, including in organizations such as Call to Africa, the Uganda chapter, the Red Cross Society, I guess also the Uganda chapter, and Chambogo University. And this work underscores her passion and dedication to making a positive impact in the field of gender. And with that introduction, Angeline, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you so much, Doctor. I'd like to share my slides. I'm Angeline Chisache. I'm a student of PhD Development Studies, but as well, currently I'm pursuing, as I'm a PhD student of Development Studies, I'm also serving currently, lucky to also teach at the IDS as part of my scholarship. And this is my study. I hope you can see.
Yes, Angeline, it's visible. Proceed.
Okay.
If you can put on slide mode. Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. The topic is gender roles and food security, a differential impact analysis of Kaabong West sub-county, Kaabong district in Uganda. Gender role, my social problem is food security. Food security is a situation where all people everywhere have access to food, where all people everywhere have physical, economic, and social access to enough nutrient-dense food that is healthy and safe to help them meet their dietary preferences. Not only that, but also to help them have an active and healthy life. Then gender roles are those activities or tasks with perceived value. So those things that we do that are socioculturally attached and designated for whether you're feminine, female, or male. For example, in my culture, men usually do what we call masculine work, the heavy duty work, and they're responsible for the cash, whereas women do the unpaid domestic care work. So a differential impact analysis, I'm going to be looking at how differently gender roles of boys and men, gender roles of girls and women impact food security in 4 pathways at the household and individual level, but the 4 pathways of availability, accessibility, utilization, and stability. I know most of us may not be from Uganda, but if you had a drive through Kaabong district, it is a rural patriarchal community, a very rural community found in northeastern Uganda. It has been since 2017 categorized as very highly food insecure. So a drive through that area actually shows there are very many non-state actors there. You see very many posters of NGOs. The area is arid. The general picture that people have of Uganda does not fit the Kaabong district. Winston Churchill described Uganda as a pearl of Africa. Why? Because of its abundance in resources, food, the water resources. But now, when you come through this district, the area in Karamoja, like the way the Kenyans have provinces, we have regions in Uganda. So Karamoja region is a very arid area. It is usually characterized by political strife between the Tukanas, also cattle wrestling. So that affects its food security. There are very many interventions that have been there, but I continue to ask, why is it that these interventions have not been able to bring about food security? The government is also not seated. It has done very many things there, but the rates of food insecurity in the area, categorized by the integrated food security classification phase, continue to increase year in and year out, as I'll be discussing. And when you go through there, it's evident that there are state actors and non-state actors trying to work towards restoration of the livelihoods there in relationship to food security. So that's why I got my understanding or my intuition that maybe there's a missing link that these actors are missing in terms, and I'm thinking that is in terms of gender roles. Yes, there are very many interventions, but these interventions have to be tailored to the roles that we do at an individual, community, and household level, that in the end feed the pathways of food security. That is my content layout. I'll start with the definition of key terms. Because of time, I will also will not go through it all, but I'll end with a methodology. This is my proposal for my PhD. I have defined gender roles, food security, so I also want to define the differential impact analysis. This is a methodological approach that involves examining how the impact of one independent variable, in this case, how the impact of gender roles differs across the other dependent variable, in this case, food security. So I'll be seeing how gender roles, boys and men's roles, girls and women's roles differ and impact the different pathways of food security. That is accessibility, availability, utilization, and stability. To give an introduction, generally, globally, over 924 million people suffer extreme food insecurity, according to a report that was produced by FAO 2023, but also several academic scholars like Gonzalez in 2015. Yet, this food security is not only a human right, but it's a prerequisite for the success of any development intervention. You cannot have an intervention in the community when you're dealing with people who don't have food security. And this problem is not only common in the area as I've described, but we have context to this. For example, in Europe, we have over 13.5 million people that are suffering from this, reported by Grimashia and Nakarato, 2022, and others. But interestingly, as you can see the pie chart, the highest famine load and food insecurity is found in Asia. Mostly in India. 25% of food insecure people are found in India, whereas India is also one of the most populated countries in the world. One would think maybe an area that is most populated has enough agricultural labor to participate in production to cause availability of food, but that's not the case. Also, to give more context, when we come to Africa, every other year we have an excess of over 11 million people since 2021 that have continuously been suffering food insecurity. Everyone knows that Africa has a very good, strong agricultural growth potential, but we still see the same problem. When I come down to sub-Saharan Africa, it is predicted by FAO 2023, FAO, World Bank, and UNDP 2023 that by 2030 in sub-Saharan Africa alone, we will have over 220 million people suffering food insecurity. And when we look at the Gray literature and other scholars, they continue to emphasize that this food insecurity is highly triggered by gender issues. When we look at the global data on food, on gender equality, they disaggregate to food security on two data portals. They look at it in terms of anemia in women and also stunting in children under 5. Now, that's where my problem comes in from, because they're only disaggregating data to do with food security and gender equality only in relationship to reproductive roles. Whereas the most people that suffer food insecurity, as we shall be discussing, are mostly women. Then why is the data only describing them in relationship to their reproductive roles? Yet they partake of other roles like productive roles. These are remunerable roles. They also do community management roles. So in reality, when you go deeper, the literature on gender and food security is highly generic, and it is quietly silent on the differences in impact of gender roles that are specific to a developing country like Uganda, most especially for a rural community that has political strife in the northeastern Uganda. This study is very significant to development discourse because food security is important for us for the success of our interventions, but also this is to enter the debate, to contribute to policies, to projects and other interventions that are fighting gender inequality, but also that look forward towards food security. When I come to Uganda, Uganda has commonly two kinds of pastoral communities. We have the Bahima, who are in the west, and the Karamejongs. The Karamejongs are in the northeastern region of Uganda. So in Kenya, that would be described as the northeastern province of Uganda. That province borders with Kenya and South Sudan. In that province is where we find Kaabong district. Kaabong district has over the years, but the most recent, Gazu et al. 2023, FAO et al. 2023, FISNA, TAT 2022, described as the most food insecure area. Approximately 45% of households there have been described as acutely food insecure. So in addition to the semi-arid environment, the unstable subsistence livelihoods there, the political strifes, there have been several interventions in the area to address the problem. But why is that we continue to see an increased prevalence of this same problem there? I think there is a missing link, a point that we are missing. And when I check the literature, most of the literature is very silent on the exact, on how and in what ways gender roles impact food security. Specifically, there is no literature on how gender roles impact food security in Kaabong sub-county, Kaabong district. When I look at this, I also want to look at it in a scientific way. The literature is not, there's literature that describes the contribution of gender roles towards food security, but I am looking at it, there isn't literature that clearly tells us that exact mode of, in as much as literature accepts that gender roles contribute to food insecurity, it is silent on how these roles should be altered and in what chronological way they can be altered to cause food security in Kaabong West sub-county, Kaabong district. So answering this is going to be essential to stakeholders in a bid to develop interventions that address food security and gender equality in Kaabong West sub-county, Kaabong district. This brings me to the problem statement. Several areas in Uganda have been suffering food insecurity with a differential impact, with a different impact on between men and women, according to Duraraj et al. 2019. So men and women, between men and women, there is a difference in how food insecurity is suffered by those particular genders. This is affirmed by a report on the state of food insecurity in the world, whereby also in the country, Uganda, 30.6 million people are suffering food insecurity. And the government is not seated. It has established the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries. Several programs in there, like the plan for modernization of agriculture, the plan to move agriculturalists from subsistence to commercialized agriculture. However, food insecurity is severely suffered by Ugandan women than the Ugandan men. So this prevalence is going to derail the realization of the Sustainable Development Goals 2030, we are left with like 5 years to be there. The Uganda Vision 2040, which is to make Uganda a developed nation by 2040. The current NDP, National Development Plan 3. We cannot have those realizations if food insecurity is growing to the rate at which it is today. There are affirmations. The idea the government of Uganda has put in place very many interventions, like I have mentioned. The government of Uganda has also coined it ideally that every citizen in Uganda, every person residing in Uganda should have a right to food. And it has coined that in the 1995 Constitution of Uganda. But we continue to see that there is high rates of food insecurity occurring in the area. It's not only the government of Uganda, also other non-state actors like UNDP, FAO, USAID, UNICEF, World Food Program, ADRA, to mention but a few, are working towards this ideal. But over the years, when we look at the integrated food security phase classification, it has continued to categorize Kaabong district as a highly food insecure area. Actually, it has been categorized as severely food insecure. In 2020, the IPC phase was 3 at 27%, which is acute. In 2021, it moved to 41%. It moved to 2020, it was 27%, 30% in 2021, 41% in 2022, and in 2023, just last year, it was 45%. So you see that it is increasing over there. So it is worsening. It is not getting any better. Yet the World Bank, in its disaggregations, keeps on telling us that this food insecurity is highly triggered by gender issues. Then one would ask why? Because there's a missing link. These gender roles, the things that we do, the roles, the activities assigned to us, even when we have development interventions, we work towards food security in relationship to our gender roles. So although women's economic contributions to household and livelihood security are still largely underappreciated, according to Paris 2004, they are evident. But failure to address the problem between how to address the problem on how gender roles influence food insecurity in Kaabong West sub-county will derail the realization of the Sustainable Development Goals, will increase rates of malnutrition, starvation, hunger at both the individual and household levels. This study therefore seeks to find out and investigate how and in what ways gender roles impact food security in Kaabong West sub-county, Kaabong district. Objectives of the study. What the overall objective is to examine the influence of gender roles on food security in Kaabong West sub-county, Kaabong district. The specific objectives, one is to analyze the gender roles terrain in Kaabong West sub-county, Kaabong district. Number two is to assess the contribution of men and women towards food security in Kaabong West sub-county, Kaabong district. Three is to examine the strategies for mitigating gender-based vulnerabilities to enhance food security in Kaabong West sub-county, Kaabong district. The general research question and the specific research questions have been obtained from those shared objectives. This is the conceptual framework on gender roles and food security. It is informed by three theories, the triple roles framework, Harvard Gender Analytical Framework, and also the intersectionality theory, and also conceptualization from the literature. The independent variable, which is gender roles, is broken down according to the triple roles framework into three. We have the productive roles, the reproductive roles, and the communal roles. The dependent variable for this study is food security. Food security is experienced at an individual and a household level, and it is measured also in those two levels. However, food security also has four pathways: availability, accessibility, utilization, and stability. Gender roles have a direct relationship with food security, and that relationship is intervened by government policies and the level of education. This brings me down to the theoretical framework. This study is informed by three theories. Theory number one is the triple roles framework. The triple roles framework, this was developed by Caroline Moser in the early 1980s. It involves mapping the gender division of labor by asking who does what, who decides what, how, who has control over what resources, who has the power to decide. So in this case, it is explaining to us the roles of boys and men, the roles of girls and women. Now, this is going to be understood in relationship to their differential impact on food security. It assumes triple roles. It assumes that men do two kinds of roles. One, the productive roles, those are remunerable roles, and they're usually done out of the household. Two, the community political roles. Those roles are done in the community, they earn remuneration, and they earn the person a status. Whereas women, on the other hand, according to Caroline Moser, do three kinds of roles. All the roles there are. The reproductive roles, those include the unpaid care, domestic work. The productive roles, those are remunerable, as earlier discussed. Now, when it comes to community, women do community managing activities. So these are an extension of their domestic reproductive roles, like she gives an example of management of a borehole in that book. As men are looking for positions that earn them pay, women are doing positions in a community like management of a borehole, because that's where they get work. That's where they get water from to participate and fulfill their reproductive roles. This framework is justified for use because any development intervention in one area affects activities performed in another area. So any intervention in gender roles is going to affect activities performed in food security. However, the same framework is silent on the age of, because you're looking at boys and men, you're differentiating the two. So age comes in key, and it is silent on age. Number two, it is also silent on other influencing factors to gender that may alter the gender roles. So it is going to be reinforced by the Harvard Gender Analytical Framework. The Harvard Gender Analytical Framework was developed in the 1980s by four people at the University of London, UK, Catherine Overholt, Kathleen Cloud, Mary B. Anderson, and one gentleman by the name James E. Austin. This Harvard Gender Analytical Framework disaggregates data into 4 profiles, but for this study, we are going to use only 3. The first one is the activity profile, which divides labor into categories based on age and gender. 2, the access and control profile, which notes discrepancies between the differences between men's access to and management of resources and benefits. Number 3 is the analysis of influencing factors, which outlines the social, political, economic influences that may alter gender roles and relationships. So it is key to this study because it highlights the key distinctions between the resources and labor of men and women in a community. It improves the general comprehension of gender dynamics at the community level. However, the same framework is also silent on intersectionality. So it's going to be reinforced by intersectionality theory. Intersectionality theory was developed by Crenshaw Kimberly in 1989. It's an interdisciplinary approach. It was reacting to Black feminists' struggles during the time and also to the social role theories. So it gives us an understanding of the dimensions of identity and power dynamics that shape an individual's life within social structures. So Kimberly explains that one person can occupy several layers of marginalization. For example, if you're living in a rural community like Kaabong, Kaabong is known to have 78% of the people there as uneducated. And most of those are women that are not educated, according to Uganda Bureau of Statistics, 2024. So a person who, I'm looking at this when I'm going to be integrating it with my biodata. If I get a woman who, by being that is a patriarchal community, the society has several roles it attaches to this person that may favor the man against that same person. Now, those roles, that person by their gender might be marginalized in a patriarchal community, in addition to their level of education, in addition to their income, the level of income, and several other things. So if I look at that and measure it in relationship to how it affects the availability of food, accessibility, utilization, and stability, because food security has something to do with the physical, the economic, and social access to safe food. So those levels, that intersectionality of one's identity affects one's access to food security. So this theoretical framework also reinforces the Triple Rose and Harvard analytical frameworks. So it is going to be able to show the intersectionality of gender roles and the unique forms of food security or insecurity. How do those gender roles cause food insecurity? The literature review, my literature review is organized according to objectives, and objective 1, which is on gender roles terrain. The gender roles to give context to this, the gender roles in Western European countries have a very gradual representation of women in productive roles. Those are remunerable roles vis-a-vis in other areas. When it comes to East Asia, for example, in Japan, Taiwan, and Korea, South Korea, women are more in remunerable employment. Those are community and reproductive roles, according to Ndut et al. 2020 and others. Actually, a woman in Asia is seen of high caliber if she's doing a lot of work away from the reproductive roles, according to Ndut et al. 2020. And then in Africa, when you come down to Africa, women are mostly in reproductive roles. They also do productive roles, and they also come down and do community management roles, which is in alignment with the theory there. But also, there are areas within Africa, like the matrilineal communities, where you find these roles have been changed. Their description of community management in other areas, you might find a woman taking in community political roles. So the literature shows that there's been a growth of women from mostly the reproductive to the productive roles, but also these same women retain the reproductive roles entirely to themselves. So that explains their time poverty. So it further subjugates them to time poverty, according to Doering and Thibault 2017. When it comes to objective 2, yes.
Angeline, just a quick one. To manage your time, please gloss over the literature review, then so that you focus more on the methodology, because you have 5 minutes or less left. Thank you.
Okay. Those are my hypotheses. Now, this brings me to methodology. Because of time, this is a basic mixed method study. So my approach is basic mixed methods. It is guided by Noguzi and Leach 2015, plus Criswell 2015. So in this approach, I'm going to use a convergent parallel design of mixed methods. by Creswell 2015. First of all, why am I using a basic mixed method study? Because of the comprehension in an interpretation. It gives me breadth and width in comprehension and also in conceptualization. Why am I using a convergent parallel design of mixed methods? Because it borrows from both the qualitative and quantitative traits. So the data collected is going to give me a very critical conceptualization from both qualitative and quantitative data. So therein, I'm going to use a side-by-side analysis, strategy of analysis, where I present a theme and explain to it in relationship to what I've got from the quantitative data and reinforce it or explain it with the qualitative data. So it's going to help me in triangulation. The area of study is Kaabong West sub-county, as I explained, because it has been categorized as highly food insecure, according to UNDP 2024, also because of its strong rural patriarchal attachment. Kaabong West sub-county is found in Kaabong district. The study population is men and women aged 18 and above in Kaabong West sub-county, Kaabong district. So I used the Uganda Bureau of Statistics data of 2024. Uganda had the census in May, and then it released preliminary results in June. It showed that in Kaabong West sub-county, women and men aged 18 and above are 51,950. So using the Credits and Morgan table of sample size selection, I arrived to a number 382 respondents. My sampling procedure is stratified random sampling. So I'm using 2 layers of stratification by parish and then by geography. Then the simple random sampling will start by village, and the data collectors will alternate from a male respondent to a female, and likewise. Data collection methods, I'm using a household survey because of its flexibility and also it's efficient in terms of resources and time. This survey is going to be entered into an app called the Duplo Survey to Go. Why this specific app? Because it helps me to monitor the data collectors. I get on-spot access to the data, but I can also monitor how long the interview takes and what is being asked. Then the data analysis, I'm going to analyze data quantitatively and qualitatively. Qualitatively, using Vivo software, I'll do a thematic content analysis as described by Brown and Clark 2006. And then quantitatively, I'll do descriptive statistics from the SPSS version 19. Therein, I'll find out the mean, the standard deviations, the percentages. I'll also be able, from the descriptive statistics, to make inferential statistics and make predictions on gender roles and food security. The output for this will be me answering the research questions, but also testing the hypothesis. That study population is going to be reinforced by, it's going to be enriched by key informants. For example, we have the village local council members, the Kaabong district officials from the local government, the NGOs, specifically Action Against Hunger and World Vision, because these are the 2 NGOs that work specifically on gender issues and food security in the area. Also religious leaders, specifically Christianity and Islam. According to the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, Christianity and Islam are the most common religions therein. Why am I choosing these particular people? I want to tap on their expertise on the 2 variables. I'll take 2 of them, taking note of the point of saturation. I arrived to this sample size using the Credits and Morgan tables. So I'm going to use a purposive sampling technique to tap on their expertise. The data collection methods, I'm going to use the key informant interviews. Why? Because I want to tap on their expertise. They are semi-structured, so they help the other person to give insights that I may not have otherwise thought about. So that will help me enrich my study with the household survey. I'll start with the district officers, where I have to issue a research notice, and also therein look for the community development officer. Then I'll go to the local council 1. Local council 1 in Uganda is the lowest administrative unit. I think for Kenya, this would be like the Nyumba Kumi. Then I think the Nyumba Kumis. Then I'll do NGOs as stated up and religious leaders. These are going to give me qualitative data that I will enter in Vivo software and do thematic content analysis to enrich the other data as I've shared. Those are some of the references, and I really thank you so much for listening. Over to you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Angeline, for that presentation. I will not give any comments or any comment because that is not the space now. So I will go straight to introducing the discussant. You can mute yourself, Angeline, so that I introduce the discussant so that then he takes the time allocated, I think 10 to 15 minutes to guide us or to open the discussion. Then I'll open for the rest. So the discussant is Dr. Grace Lubale. He's a senior lecturer at Kaabong University, where he has served since 2001, and he's a specialist in gender and development. And he has supervised over 30 graduate students to completion with over 20 publications and 6 articles in gender-related fields. So we are really dealing with a gender expert proper. And Grace is also interested in education, human rights, and development planning. He's a human rights advocate, research consultant, supervisor, development consultant, international evangelist, church minister, theologian, and educationist, counselor, mentor, and community development in animation. And he has over 2 decades of highly successful and impeccable work in educational instruction at Kaabong University with remarkable resources in Uganda, think tanks, trainer of trainers, public speaking, research and publications. And he is a member of the Kaabong University Council, chairperson of the university, same Kaabong Academic Staff Association, founder of Hosanna Development Center in Uganda, a member of Mulago National Referral Hospital Research and Ethics Committee, House of Clergy of the Province of the Church of Uganda, and Diocese of Kampala. And he has served also as head of teacher education and development studies department for over 5 years. So Grace, welcome back to Kenya, now online. And over to you, 10-15 minutes max.
Thank you, Bwana John, for your kind introduction. Am I clear and loud?
Yes, you are good. You are good, Grace.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for your kind and warm introduction. And I appreciate this. And I am also here to learn. The University of Nairobi is doing it well and differently. I think in Chambo Kushalikwa copy to do better. I appreciate the invite. And be sure that I will be available as and when you wish. I can make a contribution to the life and growth of Uganda, Kenya, East Africa, and the University of Nairobi. Thank you, Angeline, for the presentation. And I have a few things to raise as we discuss your presentation. Number 1, Angeline, take note. Those were para notes, not PowerPoints. You were making PowerPoints. We would like to see a PowerPoint, not Power Notes. So strengthen and improve the format of making PowerPoints, not Power Notes. Number 2, the topic is okay and outstanding. The topic is sufficient and well articulated, and that's good. Number 3, the background is well laid and it's well. We can strengthen into, but you have done well, but you can still further go ahead and strengthen your background into the historical, as I have seen it, theoretical, conceptual, and then contextual. So those 4 key areas are important in your background and clearly demarcated. Statement of the problem, you can improve. Well written, but ideally, statement of the problem, you are dealing with 3 key issues that are important. 1, the ideal situation. So you open a settlement problem by helping us what's the ideal situation of gender roles and food security. Holding other factors constant, if the gender roles were going on well, what would be happening to food security and the situation in Kaabong in view of the laws in Uganda and the laws in Kaabong and across. Paragraph 2 of settlement of the problem should now do with the actual situation. What's the actual situation of gender roles and food security in Kaabong? What exactly is on ground, which you are now calling food insecurity? And then paragraph 3, look at the gaps and how the study intends to close them. In short, paragraph 1 and 2, ideal situation minus actual situation, you get paragraph C, the gaps, and how you intend to address them. That's how I would have addressed the same problem. Now, Chairman and the presenter, my total critical issue is on objectives. Mr. Chairman, take note of my word. I am saying that the objectives the presenter has made are not in tandem with the conceptual framework. And take note of that, the way I've stated my English. The objectives are not in tandem with the topic and the conceptual framework. They are separate, they're independent, and yet the right thesis is that objectives should be in tandem with the topic and the conceptual framework. So my proposal to the candidate and the university, one is that the topic is okay as it stands, and the conceptual framework is equal okay as it stands. So now let the candidate marry the current topic and concept framework and get 3 new objectives. And precisely let me read them for you the way I would think the candidate should do them. The objective 1 which you are presenting our candidate is not a good objective because that is part of your background. By the time you make this study, those gender roles are already known. So that can't be a good objective. So they are already known, just put them in your background. But this is my proposal to the candidate. This is how I would have married the topic and the conceptual framework. Because in your conceptual framework, you have 3 keywords. On food security, you have availability, you have accessibility, and utilization. And for me, those are the 3 objectives you should be looking at. So my proposal to you would be now like this. The 3 objectives would now look like this. Let me read them for you and get a pen and write. Number 1, you do now say maybe to establish, whichever English word you use, whether to establish, whether to assess, whatever, but to establish the impact or the effect or the influence, those words, whatever you want to use, are well. To establish the influence of gender roles on availability of food in Kaabong sub-county, Kaabong district. Let me repeat for you. To establish the influence, and for the word influence, I'm saying use any word you want to use, which is measured. But since you're using impact, stay at impact. To establish the impact of gender roles on availability of food in Kaabong sub-county, Kaabong district. Objective 2 do now also look that equivalent, that language, but you can keep editing. To establish the impact of gender roles on the accessibility of food in Kaabong sub-county, Kaabong district. To establish the influence, it's that impact of gender roles on the accessibility of food in Kaabong sub-county, Kaabong district. Now, objective 3 would be to establish the influence. you can use the impact, effect, that's okay, to establish the impact of gender roles on the utilization of food in Kaabong sub-county, Kaabong district. So as a candidate, you look at the senior supervisor, but for me, that's how I would have married the independent variable, which is gender roles, and the dependent variable, which is food security. And so the objectives properly reflect the topic and conceptual framework. And that's how I would have done them. And those three objectives on availability, on accessibility, and conceptual and the utilization would come out very well. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask the candidate also to improve on, when I read her proposal, in the time, in the scope, she missed geographical scope. So, Bwana candidate, please.
Dr. Lubare, if you can hear me, you have sort of frozen. You have hung up. Pascaline, do you have his number? You call him?
Angeline can do that, please. I think we can request him to put his video off, maybe to have a better connectivity. He's out, so just a minute.
Yeah, try calling him. I hope, Angeline, you are getting all those suggestions, because these are an opportunity for you to pick proposals and suggestions for you to advance your work, which you'll discuss, of course, with your supervisor.
Yes, sure. Thank you so much.
Okay, welcome. So as we wait for the discussant to come back, I can fill the void by supporting the comment he was making in terms of the connection between the topic and the other parts of the proposal, or rather the objectives and the other parts of the proposal. And just to take advantage of being on the chair until he is back, the same case he is raising on the conceptual framework topic versus objectives, I would like Angeline to also look at the theoretical framework or frameworks, because she has suggested 3 of them, and notice that the theories proposed, which are 3, triple roles, the Harvard framework, and the intersectionality, they appear to be progressive or in progression. But when you look at what is required and the way the literature is suggesting, because you state theories after literature review, which drives me to the fact that you need to bring the literature review first before the theories, since theory does not inform literature, literature informs the theory. That's the theory testing work approach that could be used. Although obviously, if you decide to go that route, it's also an innovation. So you need to think in terms of the richness of the intersectionality approach. And then go beyond. I think when you talk intersectionality, if I were you, I would not even think of the other 3. Or I would probably introduce them at my theoretical framework as an introduction, but then select the intersectionality because there's more value. So you could try, and I see Rahma has already said it, try one of the theories, which I would propose is intersectionality. And then the intersectionality principle needs to ride through your work, because roles are very basic in gender analysis. And even people like Caroline Mosa have moved from roles had gone to the intersectionality notions, at least in some of their work. And the point here is to look at gender beyond women and men and what they do, to also questions of power, questions of resource ownership, like who owns the land in that Chambogo area, Kaabong area, and who controls resources at the household, like even the income that comes beyond the land, so that it is invested in the provision of food, including also questions of leadership. When you look at the local council, who are there? Because even if women had to play certain roles, but they are not in the leadership and there are policies in the council or within the parish or the district. When you look at those, the empowerment levels at those levels, and there is very little in terms of women's empowerment. Or you also go to other demographics, because when you talk intersectionality, you have rightly added age, or what I call generation. But what about also things to do with the persons with a disability, things to do with the location, because the district is not homogeneous. So you think beyond gender as men and women to also include all those other factors, social and economic, demographics, and all that. Persons who have disability, the aged, etc., etc. I think I will stop there. I saw like the discussant is back. Grace, are you back?
Not yet, Mwalimu.
Oh, not yet. Yeah. So Angeline, my contribution is it's a good work, but to strengthen it, I would suggest to go beyond gender roles to intersectionality. And if you are then looking at intersectionality, because writing a dissertation, you need to go front and backwards, or in any research, I would suggest you look at that topic where you say gender roles, or you simply leave it gender and food security, gender and food security, you stop talking about roles. Because when you go intersectionality, you are going beyond roles. And then in your methodology, you strengthen the qualitative. You have key informants. But when you talk intersectionality, there are issues of culture. You have said in your introduction and in your literature review, the issues of conflict. You are talking about pastoralist mode of production. You are talking about things to do with the culture, social formations in that area. And when you also think about things to do with the government policies, because the National Development Plan 3, is talking about specific policies. The parish development model, I have not heard about that in your work. Maybe it is in the main document. I know a bit about Uganda having stayed there. So when you think about all these things, all these dynamics, they shape what you are calling gender roles or what you may call gender. And I concur with the discussant that you need to break your objectives so that they are looking at those sub-variables of food security. I think that should be how that can be. And also FGD, focus group discussions. I will give my colleague and Dr. Rahma a chance later in the discussions to say more. She's an expert in this area, so she can give you more input when we come to the discussion. Is he back, Basil?
Yes, I can hear him. I've been trying to chat just to be sure that he's hearing us. Angeline, can you please confirm that Mwalimu can hear us? I can see him, he's back.
And as you confirm, I see Dr. Rahma Hassan is dropping off. Don't worry, Rahma, we are going to relay your comment to the candidate. So just a bit, I don't want to be the discussant, so I can hold there. I was only trying to keep you busy and link my insights with what the discussant was just saying in terms of coherence of the work. But Basil, if you can hear me, in the interest of time management, would you allow me to call in some comments as we continue?
Yes, Halima, that's true, so that we save on time. Please go ahead.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So you have noted, Angelina, I hope you have noted the comments, and we will continue giving you feedback. But I will join those who have put in comments on the chat in terms of congratulating you on this, and feel strong. Don't feel discouraged when we sound very strong on our positions, but you are also in a very good topic. I will be giving more comment. Are you there, Rahma, so that you can voice your comment before you leave? I can give you first opportunity. Oh, Grace, you are back. We can go back and you finish where you are before I open the floor for other comments. Continue, Grace. Unmute, please. Grace, you are muted if you are talking, if you are speaking.
It seems that he still has challenges. I'm trying to unmute him on my end. So I think we proceed. Let's proceed with the plenary.
Yes, I was asked. Okay, I was asking whether Angelina is sorry, not Angelina, Rahma is there. But if not, can we have raised hands on by whoever is it wants to make a comment? There was a question which is in the okay.
Ruzel Hakwam, please proceed. There's a hand up.
Yes, Russell, proceed.
Thank you very much, and thank you for holding this session. Angeline, thank you for a wonderful presentation. I just have maybe a comment that can be looked at as a question. We are seeing a lot of fluidity when it comes to definition of gender. And I'm just wondering, Angeline, what's your definition of gender, and how do you see this fluidity in gender definition affecting your research? Thanks.
Thank you. So you could, when you come to defining the concepts, indicate the way you define gender, revisit. I think you gave that definition, but revisit now on gender itself, and also speak to what I said in terms of gender and intersectionality. Okay, any other comment? I saw a comment by on the chat. I'm trying to get it about the users of the study results. I think it was a comment by
this was by Charles Ogada. Maybe we can give him a chance to.
Yes, by Charles Oganda. Charles, are you here? Charles, are you able to voice your observation? That's okay, but I think that has been the point has been made about the beneficiaries of the study. Do we have other comments? Pascaline, am I being heard, or maybe I'm speaking to myself?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm just trying to unmute Grace so that he's able to come back. But again, Rama had a comment. Charles is back. Charles, can you hear us, please?
Unmute Grace, Pascaline, that's what he is saying. Charles, are you able to voice your comment? If not, we need to continue as Pascaline is trying to unmute Grace. Any other comment? We can, because we can't stop, Angelina, I can continue giving my comments as we wait, because this work needs to be done. So I have talked about intersectionality, and now I want to talk about the issue of methodology. Throughout the research, and because your work is on impact analysis, there is a very big bias, if I may say that, towards quantitative methodology and the survey approach. And on gender work, there has been criticism in a lot of literature, and perhaps in your literature review, you need to question the epistemologies used. I hope you get what I'm saying when I talk about epistemologies. The epistemologies used in gender analysis, even by some of those authorities and in those frameworks of Harvard and other places. The epistemologies are empiricist. They are not interpretivist and feminist, particularly African feminism. And even because your outlook itself, even yourself, you look Africanist. So you need to speak that in your work. Sorry, I wanted to just tease you a bit so that you are not very serious. But the point is, you need to think in terms of a dynamic methodology, which is feminist, and which goes alongside my proposal for you to go intersectionality, gender and intersectionality. And you can still do a survey because of counting, particularly in terms of food availability, adequacy, in terms of number of meals. You know, those are obvious things, which I even think the Uganda Bureau of Statistics know. I don't think there's anything new there. Probably you'll be confirming for 2020, 24, 25 when you do the survey. But then the feminist approach and the kind of feminist methodologies you use to capture the voices of women and other vulnerable groups. That is, for me, what you should be thinking about. And what that also means is that you need to update the literature and to also revisit discourses around femininity and masculinity. Because there's the old way of saying that women are working alone, and yet, I mean, they are working alone at home, and they are also going to the offices, so they are doing reproductive and productive roles, and criticizing their participation in reproduction is not working nowadays. What is being said nowadays is that both women and men, girls and boys, need to be empowered to work in both spheres. And I like the concept of time poverty, because that is current discourse. Time poverty can affect everybody, even harassed men. You know, men are also being subjected to gender-based violence, which also tells me that I have not seen it, at least it was not a major emphasis, about gender-based violence, okay, as an element of gender dynamics and food security, like where men get money, okay, because they may be the main brand earners, and then they cannot give the women because of various reasons. And then that is being called financial violence, okay, at the domestic floor, because gender-based violence is being defined beyond physical, psychosocial, sexual, and those traditional ways to also include financial violence on each other. Or even women can actually deny the family money, because we know there are women who have become so modernized and very empowered that they have become a danger to the men folk. Those are the endangered masculinities. And there are women who are happy even to be at home, or even to take leave, like the way the Scandinavians do. They take leave to breastfeed, the exclusive breastfeeding. I haven't also heard of child care in your work. You know, you're talking gender roles as if it's washing dishes and clothes and cleaning houses. They are also the unpaid work, unpaid care. You need to talk about all that. So my point is if you want to capture all these dynamics, which belong to the qualitative sphere of impact assessment, then you need to de-emphasize the survey. The survey should actually be secondary, in my opinion. And even you can intersperse them, like Brayman has suggested, and other methodology writers. You can intersperse them so that you could even begin with some few strategic interviews as a pilot, and then you develop a household survey. And as you do the household, you also go into more in-depth, discussions and the key informants and FGDs, because that will be the work that you can analyze using NVivo. Investing in NVivo is so expensive that it does not justify you only having 10 key informants, as I have seen in your presentation. So those could be some of the things which I would be discussing. And I also agree with what the discussant said about what you presented was a PowerPoint notes. It's not a PowerPoint presentation. For the sake of even other students and researchers here, PowerPoint is about talking points. It's a 7 by point, 7 lines, okay, and 7 words per line. That is the best way of a PowerPoint. So don't crowd them. If you do that, you will not crowd them. Automatically, you have to think, then you can make your notes down there, which you can be seeing, and we don't have to see them. So that would be what I can propose. And a lot of, in your problem statement, sorry, I'm going to and fro, because I like thinking that way, retroactively, not deductively. I would like you to also think in terms of how your problem statement should be sharp, not over half a page or maximum 1 page. All that stuff you hand, even citing researches and arguments, need to go, some of it to the background, but also much of it to the literature review section. That would be my proposal. If in the main document you have written all that stuff in the problem statement, a problem statement should be just very few sentences, each touching on each potential research question, so that then you are able to give us a succinct and well-defined problem statement. I will stop there. I've said so much in a while. And I can see Bikolimana Muhihi has written a comment there. I could be missing the pronunciation. Bikolimana, can you voice the comment, please?
Thank you. Good afternoon, members.
Afternoon, sir.
I'm Bikolimana Muhihi from Moshi Cooperative University in Tanzania. I was closely following up the presentation by Angela, and the last speaker here has highlighted some important issues basing on qualitative directions or points. But I was looking at the title, differential impact analysis. But when you go deeper, look down there, you will see that there is a lot again of qualitative approaches. Now, what is the best approach? What is the best strategy of studying differential impact in that particular aspect, like differential impact, the reliable results? When and how can we get the reliable results on differential impact aspects? By using qualitative or quantitative approaches. So I was a little bit confused from that particular point. While I agree with the candidate on the quality of the study, I mean, looking at it from the title, it being timely and relevant, and of course, it's about the current debate. And now I fear that if things are not well streamlined, how will they live? So I was of the think about some sophisticated
Because man, I'm not getting, because man, you are breaking. You are breaking.
Like, maybe allow me to.
Please write what you are saying.
There, if she has caught some few points, but okay, say it. Let me write.
Yes, you're right. You're right. But I think he was raising the issue of measuring the differential impacts or analysis of the differential impacts. And my first point is that you also need in your problem statement to indicate whether what you are calling differential impact is well standard and if it's a gap. But my view is that as you also think through that, whether you are highly quantitative or qualitative, you have in mind that these days we are not talking about either or. These days we are talking about mixed methods. And even in impact studies, the best impact studies are not about the R statistic. I've not even seen you saying R. You are talking about percentages, which are very basic. Those ones cannot give you analysis. You need to think about regressional statistics, not crosstabs, not levels of significance. Those are only associational statistics. They will not give you proper sort of cause-effect relationships. And I think that's what you are looking for. So the way we research is going is not an either quantitative or qualitative, it's a mix. And the principle here is that even in qualitative, you can give descriptions to support or compare or contrast, but to cross-relate with the statistics, because statistics are like the foundation of reality to some people. But then to others, the descriptions are actually the foundation, are the lived experiences of those people who are going without food or without adequate food throughout the year. So I would propose, but I leave it for discussion, and I hope Bicolimana is hearing me. I would propose that yes, you can go differential impact and you can still have your survey. I actually said you don't throw out the survey and you can test your hypothesis. I have seen you are writing hypothesis in plural, but you have only one. What you have is one hypothesis, Angeline, is not several. And if you have 3 objectives or 4, I doubt you can only test one hypothesis, because you have one but stated in null and also in alternative. So it's one hypothesis. It's about the same issues. So you can still test your hypothesis, which can help you do the differential analysis, but you can also qualitatively do the analysis through comparisons and based on not in data significance, but in data saturation, which you rightly capture in your methodology. So the difference is significance versus saturation. It doesn't mean one is superior to the other. It means that they are mutually reinforcing. That's the principle of development studies research. You are not in a class of economics, you are in a class of development studies. So note that very seriously. I saw Rilak Osanjo saying a small comment, give a little more insight into the gender roles, then balance with the food security. Rilak, do you want to say something about your comment? Any other comment? Pascaline, are we unable completely to get the discussant back? Oh, he's
now in the
asking.
waiting room, so I've requested him to go and come back. Let me find out. He's just joining now. Let's see if he's able to talk to us. Grace, are you back now?
I've actually admitted him. I saw an alert of waiting and I admitted him.
Maybe you can ask him to chat or share his feedback after, because he seems to be having a serious challenge with his connection. Because just like the others, he should be able to unmute and is our co-host. So it seems to be a problem on his end. I think we can go back to the chat. Someone is speaking.
Hello, I am now available.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Welcome back.
Thank you. Hello?
We can hear you.
Yes. So thank you very much. Mixed
Let me complete my thoughts. I had done the objectives of the candidate.
Yes, Grace,
And then
continue.
the candidate also needs to improve. I've done the objective, the same with the problem. The candidate needs to improve on the, I didn't see her budget, research instrument tools, and the budget, research instrument tools, and time frame. Any proposal must have those three ingredients at the back: budget, time frame, and research instruments. The literature can still go ahead and improve, but my major insistence as I went up, because of I got a challenge, my phone got a challenge, was that the topic should be in tandem with the objectives and the conceptual framework. So I have given a suggestion of what I think the objectives ought to be, and if the candidates can take them, that would be very good. The other way, you can also write that topic in a simpler way. It's simpler to
He seems to be muted again.
Hello, sorry. Are you hearing me now?
Yes, continue.
Yes, we can hear you, Dr. Grace. We can hear you.
I am concluding by saying there is even a simpler way she can write that topic by simply saying gender roles and food security in Kaabong sub-county, Kaabong district, Uganda. She doesn't have to say that second sentence of the those can be seen in the discussion. The issue is gender roles and food security. That's the issue. So the rest can even be the simpler way. Simply say gender roles and food security in Kaabong sub-county, Kaabong district, Uganda. Very simple like that. You can get a PhD like that. If she wishes to add, you can now add maybe gender roles and influence on food security in Kaabong sub-county, Kaabong district of Uganda. Can even be the simplest of writing that topic. Chairman, apology for my technology and my phone got a challenge, but I will formally write my report and forward to you and the candidate. I thank you for giving me a chance to participate in this discussion.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Rubare, for the incisive comments. We will note them. I am not sure you need to write a formal report on them, but Pascaline can confirm that, because we do not like engaging people unnecessarily in terms of their time, because the candidate, the presenter was noting the comments, but I think that it's fine. So thank you very much, Grace. I think we were at the point whereby I was asking Bikolimana. Bikolimana was speaking, so we can go back to you. And I think we were talking about the mixed methods approach. Or had you wanted, Bikolimana, were you okay now, or you would still just say a little bit in a minute?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm very comfortable because please, do you hear me?
Yes.
Hello.
I can hear you. We can hear you.
Yeah, thank you. My comment was basing on the nature of the title and the things that the candidate has put on the title. Now, after your explanations, now it is quite clear, and I concur with you that You cannot study the gender issues quantitatively and exclusively quantitatively. You will lack some important aspects that could make the results relevant. And for that case, I concur with you that qualitative approach is still relevant. It being mixed with quantitative techniques, like, for example, if it is quite, if I'm getting it quite okay, if it is a differential impact analysis, then the candidate can opt to have some light statistics, which will be supported with the much qualitative analysis or evidence-based arguments to furnish the quantitative results. I think it will add some worthiness on this study. Chair, that's what I can say for now. Maybe one more point. The title seems to be a little bit longer, and it might make the study look or sound complicated. So I was also suggesting that the candidate could think of this title: Impact of Gender Roles on Food Security in Kaabong West Sub-County, Uganda. Just impact of gender roles on food security. Then all other issues will be coming there in. So putting this colon with the differential impacts, this could sound better when it is a title of the paper and not the title of the whole study. So that's just my opinion. Chair, thank you so much.
Thank you and welcome, Bikolimana. So thank you very much.
Asante sana.
Karibu. Angeline, do you want to reflect a bit? Our time is almost up on these comments. You don't have to answer everything because I'll only give you 2 minutes. You reflect back to what has been discussed, and then we close off.
Yes, thank you very much, Professor. I thank you so much for the input. I have taken note. I will work on them. Someone asked a question on the users of this research. I'm looking at state and non-state users, for example, policymakers, because I feel it is important to have policy considerations that are not just about rights and gender equality, but also using gender equality in our interventions as well to drive to food security. I'm also looking at non-government organizations, ministries, and departments within the government that are working on issues to do with gender and food security. I think that answers that. About the mixed approaches, yes, it's a mixed approaches study. Maybe I will strengthen the qualitative with FGDs, focus group discussions, and in-depth interviews in the community. Yes, so I've taken note of that, as well as the objectives. I shall work well with the supervisors. And I thank you so much again for the guidance.
Welcome, and thank you too for being brief and for taking the comments positively. That is the spirit of these seminars. And feel free to reach out to any of the people who are contributing. Either, if you know, I'm sure you know where Dr. Lubale you can get him in your former university, and even Bikolimana. And also ourselves, we are here to support you. We are all in one enterprise of knowledge. I think I'll stop there, and thank you very much. The presenter, Angeline, the discussant, and Dr. Grace Ruvale, and for everyone for participating, and those who gave comments, plus those who listened, and thanked the presenter. It's a great topic, but let us please, and I hope, Angeline, you'll start with a good definition of gender, looking at, before you go to roles, and looking at different definitions and concepts, including the political correctness of equating gender with women, whether you want to go that way or you want to be more academically sound. So that is up to you. So thanks everyone. Let's keep this burning. We'll have another seminar when Angeline tells us on this so that we see whether she improved her work. And then we'll also have other seminars. So I will stop there. Pascaline, over to you. Are you here?
Yes, Ramiro Mwalimu, thank you so much for your excellent moderation of the seminar. And we really want to thank you and also the speaker, the presenter, Angeline. And of course, our discussant, and of course, everyone, those who have taken part. And we're also inviting you to our next week's seminar. And we'll be moving from PhD seminar to another seminar where we'll be talking about Chinese in Africa and in Kenya, where we'll be talking about matters SGR and the Kenya Railways Corporation. So I've just shared the link via the chat, and you can always write to us at ids@unbi.sc.ke. I've put the details in the chat, and thank you so much, and we look forward to engaging further. Thank you, and have a good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are joining us from. Thank you.
Asante.
Thank you.
Asante. Thank you,
Asante sana.
Thank you, Bikolimana. I think we can say goodbye. You can switch on your cameras. I can do a quick photo of ourselves, those who are still here. We started with at least, we were at 50 at one point, we are at 46, and thank you so much for engaging. Angeline, I hope you've taken in the comments, and those who can share their feedback with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much from Uganda.